um, just so that JNails has something. But I think right now with the issue with my mic is that you can only hear one person talking, and it's either me or my co-commentator. So hopefully it's not a huge issue, but I'm gonna record what I can. If no one, if some, like, if someone who is listening can just commentate that they can hear me, that would be great. Uh, it does show on Discord that my mic is like on. I can see my like name showing up blue. So it should be okay. Okay, I'm loud. Yeah, that I knew. That I already knew about that. Na Smith, sorry, is gonna join about 20 minutes in, or I guess 13 minutes from now since they started late. But yeah, this is the tournament BM or Big Money, where the top 16 players who entered the tournament get selected to participate in the tournament, and there's like a prize winning and all. It's organized by H. Executable. So yeah, this is pretty cool. In terms of this first board, there's Shepherd, which I don't really like, but it can be a little bit of a high variance card, depending on how well you're able to draw your Shepherd and your green cards together. There's also Rebuild. Rebuild is slightly, I guess, Shepherd. I don't know how well Rebuild and Shepherd work together, but if you're planning to play very green like, it could work out. There's Salt, which certainly pushes more towards the rebuild side, or the rebuild player, because they can certainly push piles with rebuild mill provinces with Salt the Earth, and push towards a faster game, so that the person who is playing the engine might not be able to catch up in time. In terms of plus buy, I don't think, yeah, there is no plus buy. In terms of alt VP, there's Temple and Plunders, and I guess Silk Road in some way, but encampments take quite a while to reveal. Well, you need to spend 5 turns buying encampments, as well as buying a gold. So that's 6 turns before you even uncover any plunders, and that's assuming you don't lose any encampments in the process. So encampment doesn't look that great. The other option, of course, is you can play Wayfarer Money. I I've seen Wayfarer appear quite a few times in ladder games that I've watched, and Wayfarer Money is surprisingly strong. But on this board, oh, one thing I forgot to mention that is that the person playing Rebuild, you do run into the risk of, I guess, sniping your own pasture. So that is a consideration because you do lose quite a bit of VP if you snipe your pasture. So that can certainly push away from the Rebuild player. But it should be a fairly quick board. Oh, there are no people advocating rebuild, but well, I guess Freaky is, but I was just talking about the board. Yeah, it's I don't know about rebuild. I feel pretty conflicted about it. One thing is that like estates are worth extra in this game because of the presence of Shepherd. You can snipe pastures as well, so it's hard to say. Um, But Salt the Earth certainly does push towards like not building towards an engine. I'm not sure if just playing Wayfarer Money with maybe a few shepherds is just faster and better than Rebuild. Wayfarer certainly does build your econ quite a bit, but it's also worth noting that like you're never gonna be able to, yeah, Wayfarer costs 6 here. You're never be able to cost reduce it enough to be able to buy it. I think the only way you can do that is, let's see, with Noble Brigand. Yeah, I was just gonna say the only way you can do that is with Noble Brigand, um, and Rebuild. Okay. So there's two gainers, sort of gainers, that triggered the Wayfarer cost reduction, but in most ways, it's Wayfarer is just going to be worth 6, which makes it a lot more difficult to play Wayfarer Money. So I think It can cost 3. I don't know if N.A. Smith is already talking. Sometimes I also can't hear my co-commentator, but just let me know if you do start talking, and I'm talking over you, I guess. I kind of do want to see a villain on this board. I think it's better than average. Well, I don't know if it's better than average, but certainly in this board where you kind of want to keep your green cards on hand, because certainly both players seem to like Shepherd. Uh, Certainly both players like Shepherd, so the villain does like it's kind of in a way like -2 cards. Yeah, I'm conflicted. I don't know about rebuild, like whether or not like sniping pasture is even necessarily a bad thing. There's just so many like cards on this board that push towards rebuild that I maybe it's just fine. Like Border Guard does good enough sifting. Salt the Earth certainly pushes towards trying to build faster, and Shepherd for getting through green. I think I do want one villain though. Like in this hand, if you play a villain as Bryan, it's pretty bad for JNails. Like they're essentially relying on sorry, that's my phone. They're essentially relying on Shepherd draw at this point because the other cards aren't that tempting. I mean, I could see rebuild or I can see another villain. Like, no, sorry, not another villain, but I can see either of those cards. The argument for against rebuild is that if your opponent is not going for rebuild, you might think of it as like, I don't know, having a little bit extra time, uh, that you don't necessarily like need a rush rebuild if they're not contesting it. And yeah, I think villain is a pretty painful attack on this board. And I think any like sub 4, so below 4, if you hit below 4, I think you just buy border guards and try to get through your deck a little bit more. Yeah, that's fair. I can certainly see a rebuild from JNails, but it's not clear. Yeah, this is a very green board. Even Silk Road. I didn't mention Silk Road earlier, but even with the presence of Silk Road, like having a lot of green cards in your deck, that information reveal play. Wait. Okay, so I got a notification from Complain saying that every match is destined to go 4-1. I don't know if that means that every match in this tournament so far has been 4-1. If so, that's pretty funny. Oh wow. Well, from the sample size of 4 that I'm seeing, well, Dinkin went 4-2. Dinkin and Marcus went 4-2, but a lot of games ended up going 4-1. I actually count 5 games, 6 games that have gone 4-1 so far. 7 games. Okay, 7 games that have gone 4-1, and then Marcus Dinkin that went 4-2, which is wow. Um, Kind of funny. Probably more just a coincidence. I might think about. Oh, I don't know if I toss pasture there. Um, there's certainly I could certainly see like if you're tracking your deck and you know rebuild and shepherd is down there, that is probably why he played the shepherd first. But I could see not tossing pasture. You probably don't though. Like I don't think it's that detrimental for you to snipe pasture. So let's look at JNails. I'm not sure what he's planning on playing. Pasture is like a fancy copper. It's also like a fancy estate. Well, I mean, it is something for your deck to trip over that you might not want it to trip over. I mean, certainly if your opponent is not playing rebuild, so JNails in this case is not playing rebuild, you do want to trash it because the duchies are going relatively uncontested on this board, so you don't really care if you're that kind of pasture is lying around for you to accidentally hit. But certainly, if I see both players contesting rebuild, which means they're contesting duchies, that you might not want pasture in your deck. Yeah, this is a really nice shuffle for Bryan. 2 rebuilds on top. Yeah, I don't know what JNails is thinking at this point. He opted not to go for rebuild, so I don't know what type of deck he's trying to play for. He did pick up a Wayfarer, but that might just be too slow in terms of trying to play anything money-ish. At this point as Bryan, I might even start thinking about salting. Um, like if I hit 4, I will just salt province because you might even consider milling provinces. That Silk Road is kind of meh for me, I think. This border guard reveal is actually so nice. It's quite unlikely that you actually get to see 2 action cards on top, and being able to like top deck a border guard every single turn is just really nice. Like it's just an extra search space at the beginning of your turn for every single turn. I don't think it's very likely that JNails will be able to take a pasture away from you. Oh, sorry, not pasture. The horn thingy away from you. I think at this point I just salt as Bryan, like salt province. Another shepherd is like also fine, but salting also seems okay. This is a little bit awkward for JNails. You have a shepherd that won't draw, a wayfarer that you can play alongside your villain. Yeah, kind of awkward. I don't think JNails looks to be in a particularly good spot. Like sometimes when you hit bad numbers, you can just salt like salt the province or something, but yeah, you can't salt province. You can't do much. JNails is I don't know what he's thinking. It's quite unclear. I think he's playing money, but the money deck is very awkward on this board. Yeah. Like you I mean, I guess you play this Wayfarer. He's probably thinking about what's at the bottom of his deck. Um which I have no idea what's at the bottom of his deck for full disclosure. It's probably like a shepherd or something. Um yeah, see here, I think villain does hurt. Like I actually do want a villain in this game, but mainly because you actually want to keep these green cards in hand. Um yes. AOUID. Oh, discards an estate. Okay. I'm not sure about discarding. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Your border guard triggers a shuffle. Oh wow, you get the horn and the lantern. That's so unlikely on this board. That's so unlikely. But I mean, like it's good. Like I'm happy for Bryan. Oh, I think I put my coffers on JNails, but like this is really nice for Bryan. Yeah, I think this is definitely right. I mean, estate doesn't do much for you after you've lost your pasture, so just ride. I could also see border guard. Like border guard might be better than bride. Yeah, I think border guard is just better because of lantern. Like you get 3 search space to look for. Well, technically only 2 because the border guard takes up 1 sort of. Um, Ride versus encampment seems unclear to me. Oh well, actually, encampment is just better than ride, right? But you're not playing with any terminals, so they're pretty much the same. But I think border guard is just better than ride. Well, JNails is so the upside position of JNails is that he didn't lose his pasture, so he can pick up some spare estates and hope to kind of like close this point deficit. Because it is worth noting that every rebuild play that Bryan played that upgraded estate to duchy was only worth 1 point in a way. Um, and now that he's lost his pasture, it's I guess worse. But I think you just salt here as Bryan. Don't play the Sporter Guard and just salt. You have decent odds of finding a rebuild. Yeah. Do you really play it? I mean, you also want to see your rebuild, right? Well, you only have one rebuild down there, and the rebuild that you just played doesn't enter your shuffle. I mean, I can see triggering it, but I'm not sure which one actually has the higher probability of finding a rebuild, given that you're only looking there's only one rebuild after you trigger that shuffle. JNails buys a state. I don't think that's enough. I don't think JNails will be able to come back. Oh, Bryan bought a duchy over salting last turn. I don't think that's right. I think you salt over buying duchy. I mean, maybe you're so ahead that like you rather seal the deal by buying a duchy, but I think at this point in the game, salt just seems better. Match, it's 0-0 right now. Oh, they're listening. Okay, it's 0-0 right now. I mean, I also don't mind milling a province. I have no idea how many duchies okay, so all 5 duchies are in the trash. This looks really bad for JNails. I don't think there's a way to come back, especially with no plus buy. If he mills province in the previous turn, could JNails have double? There's no double provincing on this board. There's no plus buy, so at most you can. I mean, the most you can score in a single turn is 6 VP, excluding any like Silk Road bumps. Um, yeah, so it's yeah, you just can't naturally just increase your VP counter by 6. I mean, I guess you buy Duchy here. Probably Silk Road, maybe. I'm not sure how much Silk Road is worth for JNails. He buys the province. That's very risky. You're hoping your opponent misses Salt, um, or misses Rebuild, but there's just so many different ways to lose. No, I think whoa, he didn't take the copper for Salt. I mean, I guess this doesn't matter, but this is like, I guess, being fancy or playing longer or trying to um, tire out your opponent and then salting. Like, okay, this is I don't know. It's a lot of clicking, but uh, I mean, maybe forgetting about salt, but he also did play a bunch of extra turns after the first rebuild, so hard to say. All right, on to the next board. It is 1-0 for Bryan. And JNails does go first this board. All right, so the only village on this board is Fancy Necropolis, which is nobles, which is kind of sad, unless I'm missing something. But there's like a lot of alt VP here and a lot of things to suggest delaying greening. One, there's Horn, there's Wild Hunt for alt VP. I don't think Tragic Hero. Well, Tragic Hero Horn is also so broken. Yeah, I think it's just a Horn Mega turn. Um, but Nobles as the only village is just so sad. I think on this board I would want to open Scrap. Um, well, if you want to think about what you want to add into your next shuffle, uh, hitting 5 doesn't seem that important. Adding economy to your deck certainly does seem appealing, which makes Scrap Cav. That's an interesting. I can get behind Scrap Cavalry. Well, so yeah, hitting 5 in your next shuffle doesn't seem that important. Well, Horn mainly doesn't have any good cheap targets. It's also worth noting that Horn can't gain nobles. Like, you try to gain some Necropolis for your engine, but then like Horn trashes itself once it becomes a nobles. So the only Horn targets on this board is actually just terminals. Gaining cavalries off Horn also seems kind of interesting, but is Horn cavalry a loop? It's not a loop. I don't think there are any loops on this board. I mean, there are ways where you can spin a little bit more and add some cards to your deck, but I don't think there's like a pure loop. I certainly want to open Scrap. The upside of Jack is it does give economy to buy your Necropolis. The upside of Cavalry is you can, I guess, gain the horses and trigger a shuffle with the Scrap in. It's not bad. I mean, yeah, it's not bad, I think. I can certainly see both. On certainly on 3-4, sorry, on 4-3 I'm not opening cavalry. So JNails does go for the cavalry. He has 1 copper, 1 estate in this hand, which means on his next hand he's gonna hit 2. So he's gonna see cavalry, 2 estates, 2 coppers. Draw horse. Do you even want to pursue cavalry? Like, I might name something like Curse. Like, I don't even know if I want to top deck a cavalry. I like coin and horse, and then you pursue into like nothing, like Curse. I don't know if I want to top deck a cavalry. I certainly just want to maximize the odds that I see this scrap again. You want to top deck cavalry? This is nice draw for JNails. Pursue is kind of funny. It's very much like an inverse scouting party in some ways. Is it? I guess a little bit. It's not quite clear to me what the best build order on this board is. Pursue, another one, makes sense. Top decking horse also makes sense. I feel like JNails has just played a lot of turns compared to Bryan. Like, Bryan, what has he done? He's had turn 1, he bought a scrap, turn 2, he bought a scrap, and that was pretty much his turns. Yeah, it's not super exciting. Well, you don't even want to buy cavalry here as Bryan because you have a scrap down there. Maybe it's worth it to buy it anyways, but then there's nothing you really want to buy. Conspirator to me feels quite. Yeah, JNails has pretty good draws. I mean, his scrap won't collide with an estate this turn, but Pursue certainly helps with, yeah, like what John said. I don't know. I feel like the conspirator from Bryan felt a little bit greedy. I can certainly see why he wouldn't want to take cavalry there, but conspirator is like, how are you going to activate it? The only way that you can activate it is, I guess, either playing scrap and horse in a single turn, and having to collide that with an estate, or having scrap in a turn, which means that you have to have at least like two non-zero cards, like two estates in your hand, or like uh, estate and silver. So I don't like the conspirator at all. I don't even know if he's gonna like. I think there's quite a. It's quite likely that he's gonna have to play it, not be able to play it. Like it might just be worse than silver this early on in the deck. For JNails, I think the conspirator makes a lot more sense. But I didn't like that conspirator from Bryan. But well, also Bryan doesn't have like enough cantrips. This is really nice for JNails. He's actually guaranteed to find a conspirator here. You might want to play the horse first and then scrap for action. Like if you see your conspirator, you can scrap for action buy, which is certainly pretty nice. So I think you just play your horse first. I don't think I want to top deck conspirator. Wow. Okay, so I'm recording this on my computer and it's already taken up 3.2 gigabytes. Wow. This must be some like HD recording. Canal seems bad. Canal seems really bad with scrap. Um, I mean, I don't know if you really care about affording things. I have no idea like what quality I'm recording. Oh, I don't like playing the scrap first. Unless like yeah. Well, good thing I cleared out my computer and I have space on it now. I actually like unless you're not planning on playing this horse, which doesn't make sense to me because you have a cavalry, a copper, and a conspirator down there. I want to play the scrap last after the horse. Well, I'm gonna stop recording once NA Smith joins me for VC, just because I have a bug with my recording software that I can only record one voice, and it's not always clear to me if it's gonna record my voice or my co-commentator's voice. So yeah, yeah, I don't think it's clear to me at all why you don't play horse here. Well, actually, do you even take action by? You might just want to take action, action horse. Ooh, that's weird. I don't know if that was worth it. Like now, that didn't seem good. The reason why that didn't seem good is that even though you gain a horse, like, okay, so I guess his hesitation was that he didn't want to lose a horse. But if you played like scrap anyways and were able to get to your cavalry, you gain two horses off of your cavalry. So now you just top deck non horses. That was, yeah, just a misplace. Like, you just didn't get to play your cavalry, which could have gained the two horses that you were hesitant on, like, getting rid of. Hmm. I don't think you actually need action buy here on this board. I don't know. Sorry, in response to Shakalaki, like, I can't hear him, so I have no idea. Not clear to me what you do here. As JNails, 4 isn't like a particularly interesting value. I don't like that play, I think. For many reasons. Like I that didn't look like the right play order to me. For one, I would have rather bought cavalry first before playing the nobles and the scrap. Because now, like, that was just awkward. That was weird. It was just the wrong play order, I think. Yeah. I mean, you didn't even need to necessarily play the nobles. Uh, he's certainly a misplay here, I think. But he still seems like he had like quite a bit of nice advantages in the beginning with the better split. Well, actually, yeah, he had a 3-4, but that was weird. I'm not sure what you pick up here on 3. I could see picking up a silver isn't that appealing. I mean, it's okay as a scrap target at a minimum, but I mean, scrapping a silver isn't draw. Like, it adds a horse to your deck that you can't get around to. But initially, it's not draw. Are these decks going to come together? I believe in it coming together. I mean, with horses on the board, like, anything is possible. I think it'll end on piles. Like, I don't think it's gonna be a province mega turn where like all the provinces empty in a single turn. But I think it'll pile, and the piles that I think it'll be will be something like cavalry, nobles, and horn. Nobles because you kind of want to fight for the necropolis, but also cavalry just because I can see them like dudding and then trying to. Do you even play this copper here? It's not clear to me. I feel like he's gonna gain cavalry off of this horn. No, I mean like play the copper. Like, I don't know. Maybe you wanted to hold on to a copper if you drew like scrap and nobles off the top of the cavalry, and then at least you can trash a copper. I know you have to play one copper. I'm talking about not playing both coppers. I mean, it didn't matter in that case, but I just wanted to note it. Um, I definitely want to add a horn for JNails soon. Well, actually, yeah, the sad thing about horn is that it can't gain necropolis, or nobles if no one understands my jokes. But yeah, in terms of what you should do in this hand, I don't know if I'm ready to get rid of scrap yet. Like, I would almost scrap. Yeah, I might scrap cavalry over scrap. I think I prefer that line a little bit more. Scrap it for horse, coin, action card. I can hear you. Oh. Okay, I'm gonna try to fix my mic